Preparing, loading, setting up. Madam Chair, we are live.
All right. Thank you, everyone, and welcome to the first official meeting of the brand new, newly reconstituted House Committee on Energy and Digital Infrastructure. I am Kathleen James, Representative Kathleen James. Very honored to be the chair, very excited to have you all here, and looking forward to working together as a team to get some good work done in the upcoming biennium. So I think we'll kick off by going around the table, as we're going to do at the start of every meeting, and introducing ourselves. So as I said, I'm Representative Kathleen James from Bennington 4, that is Arlington, Manchester, Sandgate, and the northwest corner of Sunderland.
And I am Scott Campbell, representative from St. Johnsbury. I'm starting my fourth term. I've served on 3 committees in my first 3 terms, kind of a utility fielder or something. My first committee was energy and technology, actually. So, and we were in this room, so this is kind of homecoming. Second term was corrections and institutions. Third term was transportation. And now here we are. So. Looking forward to it.
Great. Vice Chair.
Oh, Vice Chair.
Good morning, Richard Bailey, Lamoille 2, Wilkett, Hyde Park, Johnson and Belvedere. I was just newly elected in November, and I live in the town of Hyde Park.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Chris Morrow, Wyndham, Windsor, Bennington, which is Andover, Weston, Londonderry, and Windhall, and it's my first term as well.
Congratulations.
Michael Southworth, Caledonia 2, Hardwick, Standard, and Walden. I live in the town of Walden, and this is my first term.
Congratulations.
Christopher Howland, Rutland 4. I represent the northeast section of Rutland City and Rutland.
Congrats.
And that's my first term.
Yeah.
I'm Representative Dara Torrey. I represent Washington 2, just 5 towns. It's Warren, Waitsfield, Hastings, Duxbury, and Moortown. And I live in Moortown. And this is my second term. I served last session on the Environment Committee. I'm really excited to be on this one.
I'm Graham Klepner. I represent Chittenden 13, which is the southern part of Burlington, and this is my first term.
Congratulations. I neglected to mention, sorry, so this is my 4th term. I served 2 on House Education and last biennium on House General and Housing. So, Jack.
Hi, I'm Jack Locker, Committee Assistant. This is my first time in this role. I am from Williston, Vermont, grew up there, went to UVM, graduated this past spring. I've done a whole lot of different stuff, and I'm here to support you and your role as legislators. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Happy to have you. All right. Who else is in the room? If you could please identify yourself and what organization you're representing today.
It's Glenn Russell. I work for VT Ticker for the online newspaper.
Thank you.
I'm Emma Cotton. I'm the Energy and Environment reporter with PT Digger. So I hope to be saying fair about it.
Thank you.
I'm Evan Kern. I'm I'm a session associate with the Nebraska Group, and I am a 3L student at Vermont Law School.
Super. Did we get everybody? I think we did. Representative Sibilia will be joining us, I'm sure, soon. So, as folks know, this is a new old committee. It had been around and doing good work for some years as House Energy and Technology. It was disbanded and or rolled into the Environment and Energy Committee during the last biennium, and now we're back with a slightly different name. So the areas of jurisdiction that we will be covering will include energy and digital infrastructure. And I would anticipate, as often happens, and you all will learn this as we of overlap or sharing with other committees, and sometimes that gets figured out as we go, or we might share with another committee. So an issue that seems to be of mutual interest to a couple of committees. A bill might originate in their committee and then come to us for what we sometimes nickname a drive-by. Or, we might both take testimony. And if that's the case, we'll try to be very clear about where a bill is starting, who maybe has primary jurisdiction, what our role will be. Sometimes we take just as much testimony as they do. Sometimes another committee might do most of the work. We just give it a quick check to see if there's a particular clause or phrase or section of the bill that relates more directly to our work. So we'll be feeling our way a little bit with some of that. If you have questions about that, please make sure that they come to my attention so that I can help us figure that out as we move forward.
One thing to that.
Yes, please.
And so one thing that you'll hear is a certain committee has possession of a bill. And that means that they're going to be sort of formally taking testimony on it and maybe even have a vote on it. And other committees will have a drive-by or and they would not have a formal vote, but they might take a straw poll. You'll hear these terms. And so that's something to pay attention to a little bit. Having possession is important for as far as being on the record as a committee that looked at the bill. Just thought I would.
Thank you, Representative Campbell. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
And you will find as the session goes on that there are different kinds of testimony that we take. We might be reviewing a bill that somebody else has introduced. And as you can see, we have two bills that have already been referred to our committee. This is what's colloquially known as the wall. Is everybody familiar with the wall? Okay. So this is the wall. And you will see that as bills are referred to our committee by the clerk and the speaker, they come in, they're posted on our bulletin board as in the committee. As we start to take testimony and move bills out of our committee, you'll see probably, honestly, a much smaller list that starts to move to voted out. And you will find, as is often the case, many more bills are introduced than we usually have the capacity or the time to take testimony on, to take up, and certainly not to vote out. So you can expect to see a longer list of into our committee and a shorter list of voted out. And again, we'll find our way as time permits about how many bills we're able to take off the wall, how many bills we're able to just take a quick look at, how many bills we want to take detailed testimony on, and how many bills we really think we have the ability to bring to the floor. In my mind, just so you all know my approach, the best bills in the House of Representatives are the bills that come to the floor with a unanimous committee vote. I realize that's sometimes the holy grail, but it's a great thing, I think, to keep in mind. A lot of bills in the legislature come to the floor with unanimous committee support or very close to something like that. And I think it's something important to keep in mind because those tend to be not the bills that we see written about in Digger, right? It's always the controversial bills, and I understand why, that get all the attention. A lot of bills come to the floor with unanimous committee votes, and because there's something that we're able to all find common ground on. So as committee members, what's important to me is that you all have a voice and that we feel like a team. We're not always going to agree. We're not always going to see the right policy solution, but it's important to me that you all feel valued and that you all feel like you have a voice here. So if there's a bill that comes in and you want to make sure we at least take it down and get a walkthrough or take a little bit of testimony, please let me know. That's important to me. May or may not leave our committee. We'll see, what the testimony says, what we learn about the bill, and whether we think we can bring it to the floor or that it's worth bringing to the floor. But I want to hear from you on bills that really matter to you. I want to hear from you on witnesses that you want to make sure that we bring in, because it's going to be very important, especially with Energy Committee, which can be controversial. that we're hearing from everybody and doing our best to try to develop consensus policy. So everybody's voice matters at this table. As the session goes on, I think that we'll try to have everybody have little assignments. Okay, so let me know what you're interested in doing. We're going to want to be following the work of the Senate to see what they're up to. We're going to want to be following the work of other committees to see what they're up to. We might have little informal teams or working groups that get together in the cafeteria with, you and you and you and somebody else from a couple other committees to just start talking and see where we can find a path forward. That kind of stuff is going to matter to me. And that brings me to something that Representative Torrey mentioned, which I think is interesting and important. A couple of committees in the House have guiding principles, and I would love to see us have some guiding principles. So Representative Torrey has volunteered to lead a little group of people who would like to work on some draft guiding principles for our committee that they could bring back to us for discussion and voting on. So I'm going to let you, Representative Torrey, take the lead on that. If folks would like to help work on that, just let her know. And if you want to see what we're talking about by guiding principles, you can take a little field trip down to House Human Services. They've got them on a whiteboard, and they also have licorice in those red and black containers. And please don't spread the word on that, because we really want to try to keep that to ourselves. But they do have the good licorice. The Healthcare Committee also has guiding principles. So if anybody would like to help work on that, please take a look. Committee norms and process, and I'm sorry that I'm not going quite in order, but some of the expectations or thoughts I have, I would like our meetings to start on time. That's going to be a bit of a challenge for me as well. If any of you feel that you need me to be held accountable there, say something. But I think it's important that our meetings start on time. There are people who are going to be here giving us their valuable time, witnesses. We've got members, Vermonters sitting at home who might be waiting for us to go live, like my wife. So we're going to try to start our committee meetings on time so that our witnesses feel respected and so that our live stream starts when expected. As chair, I run the meetings. That's my job. And I think it will help us to run a respectful committee if we raise our hands and if you wait to be called on. I will be calling you during our formal meetings. Representative Moore. That's fine if you want to call me that. Anyway, let's start titles. No interrupting, please. Let's listen and wait for folks to finish their thoughts. And please try to come to committee as to the greatest extent possible prepared. That's not as easy as it sounds. Okay, you will have oftentimes our witnesses are not able to bring written testimony or submit it ahead of time, right? They come and they speak. They might not have written testimony. Or a lot of times you might see 18 links, each leading to a 30-page report submitted the evening before. So I'm going to do my best to try to be prepared. Let's all do our best to try to be prepared while respecting the fact that folks are going to come with different levels. If we're asking busy people to come and give their time to speak to us, right? So anyway, let's do our best to be prepared. Jack will be posting reports and resources to our website. It's a tab on our committee page. And if we want to sit later over lunch or something and have folks learn a little bit or have a tutorial about our committee webpage, I'm happy to do that. There are going to be a lot of resources probably already posted there that are going to demand our time. So, yes, Representative Morrow, thank you.
Just for the other newbies, I found out that yesterday that you can ask the copy room to print these things out, because I went to the website And there was like a 300-page report, which I am not going to read on my screen.
Yeah,
And I asked him to print it out this morning. It was done in half an hour, an hour. People are more paper oriented than digital oriented. That resource is available.
that is a great tip. You can send stuff to the copy room and they will print and bind it for you. As long as it's legislative work, right? Not obviously not your personal stuff and not our campaign, nothing campaign related. But we can certainly have things printed at the copy room and I do it all the time. Representative Torrey.
I was just gonna suggest that we might like to print certain resources for the committee and keep it on the shelf. Some of our, really guiding documents and things like climate action plan, for example, might be nice to have a group copy.
That is a great idea. So let's coordinate with Jack on that. Representative Howland.
Madam Chair, the two that are in committee,
Yes.
are there copies of those presentations that I may have missed from the print room? After they were presented on
Copies of the bills.
the bill?
Copies?
Yes.
Yes, there are a couple ways to get the hard copies of the bills. You can request with the clerk's office that a hard copy of every bill that's introduced every day be waiting on your seat on the House floor. Unfortunately, there's no way to pick and choose. If you opt in with the clerk's office to receive a packet of bills every day, you will receive every bill. Recycling bins are everywhere, and sometimes it's a good way. Or you can simply send these bills down to the copy room and get a hard copy. Also, those bins outside the copy room.
Yeah,
Right.
there's a file.
Yeah. Have you all seen the wooden slots outside the copy room? If you haven't yet, across from the legislative lounge, there are copies of the bills there as well.
They may have only been there for the day. So that's why I missed those. I got today's, but nor do I want I don't want to be a
Right,
contaminator.
right. But you can certainly send any bill you want to the copy room and they will print it out for you.
But these two are on our committee page right now.
Yes, they are.
And they're in the bins outside the copy requirements. Here or
Yeah.
downstairs.
So-
Yeah.
You know where the copy room is? It's
Yeah.
on the way to the courtroom.
Mhm.
So procedurally, a bill comes down for discussion. And if it's been discussed, but no further action is taken, it goes back to the in committee. There are only two spots. There's not three spots. There's not an in discussion.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it stays there unless we vote it out. So, excuse me. So, if we were farther along in the session, you'd see far more bills there than we're going to have the capacity to do. So, for example, if we, so H16, repealing the Affordable Heat Act, I have read the bill. I saw that it has a number of our Republican colleagues as sponsors. So I'd say that would be a bill that we should take down, right? Let's make sure let's make sure we walk through it. Let's make sure we understand what's in it. Let's take a little bit of testimony. And it'll just sit there unless we affirmatively voted out of committee, in which case it would be moving to the House. So you'll see, so many bills there, and honestly, far fewer that move to vote it out. Mhm.
Are we gonna get Ledge Council to do kind of a tutorial about this whole process? Sort of different kinds of bills. There's regular bills people introduce through Ledge Council. There's committee bills, which are bills that the committee itself writes, and a copy doesn't go to Ledge Council per se. Ledge Council working with us to craft a bill. And then there's also the option of bills that we don't take up individually might get combined into another bill. So there's lots of different possibilities. And also the website has a huge amount of information on it, and it's pretty easy to find, but to navigate, but maybe a little, sort of tutorial on that would be a good thing too.
That's a great idea. Let me
And there's
see.
also this statute versus session law. It took me a while to figure out in my
Yeah.
first term. Stuff like that would be really helpful.
It's not a bad idea. I don't know whether that's testimony or whether Ledge Council has any kind of a written.
Seems like they might. I know that and Thea did that in transportation last year, but she was really thorough.
I met with Maria yesterday and she was mentioned that she might be asked to do this.
Maria would be perfect. So,
Maria would be perfect.
So if you
Jack,
so
can you
inclined,
see? I think that's a great idea. Jack, can you see whether a member of legislative council, maybe Maria, could come in soon and do maybe a 101 on that topic, and we'll talk about that after, about what testimony we'd like to see. I think that would be helpful.
Follow-up question. Would you like me to email Ledge Council right now, see if they just want to pop in and say hello?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. So I don't want to bounce around too much. The timing of the session, especially for our newer members, I wanted to just 50,000 foot, talk a little bit about some of the things that you might be familiar with or not. If you're familiar with it, great. We'll gloss over it. If not, we can talk a little bit. So brand new committee, brand new chair, lots of new members. So we are starting to get to work now to try to build our agenda for next week and the week after. That's about as far as we've gotten. We are hoping to start with quite a bit of what we'll call one-on-one testimony, right? So we'd like to, this afternoon, we have the Department of Public Service coming in to introduce themselves and talk about the department and the work they do and who the key players are. So overview. We're going to try to get in every key player that is going to be relevant to our committee work in the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're working on it to make sure that we all have a real grounding in the work that we're doing, our committee jurisdiction, and who the state agencies are in state government, who the key advocacy and policy groups are. So try to get a lay of the land. So we're going to try to start with like freshman year. That's something that we'll just keep working on. So I don't think we're going to be able to get everybody in next week. It won't always be orderly, as orderly as I would like. But so we're going to start with a lot of 101 stuff. One of the first tasks we'll have as a committee is going to be to make some budget recommendations. The governor will be delivering his recommended budget. How the budget process works is that the governor will come to the legislature and deliver his recommended budget. So the governor has been working, state government has been working for weeks, months to develop their recommended budget for FY26. For FY26. So the governor will come and present that to us as a body. At that point, the Appropriations Committee, which meets 5 days a week, by the way, will immediately start coming out to the relevant House committees, and we will start hearing about budget requests in the agencies that are relevant to our committee's jurisdiction. Okay, so we're not in charge of that, but we'll hear about it. And if things work as they did the last biennium, we'll probably be asked to submit a memo. Okay, so we'll take some testimony and we'll say, House Committee on Energy and Digital Infrastructure, we think this looks great. We think that looks great. We think this isn't enough money and here's our top priority or something like that. I will be receiving instructions and a request from probes. Similarly, we'll probably be asked to weigh in on the FY25 Budget Adjustment Act. And for folks who are new, Vermont, the legislature passes a balanced budget every year. We don't run deficits. We don't borrow money. We pass a balanced budget. And so one of the first things that the legislature does every year is we're halfway through the FY25 budget cycle right now. So the legislature takes a look and we do a squaring up. Okay. And so we might be asked to weigh in on that again in just our clearly defined jurisdictional areas. So we'll have a little budget work to do. Again, in the form of just an advisory memo. I think that we're going to want to start talking quite a bit about state IT, digital infrastructure. I would imagine that being probably the first substantive policy area that we're going to want to really dive in on. And crossover is something that folks may or may not be familiar with. But midway through the session, we have a series of deadlines that are colloquially called crossover. And those are the dates by which, in general, the outside and move over to the Senate, cross over to the Senate. Similarly, bills that start in the Senate need to have left committee, be voted out by the Senate, and move to the House. So there's this midway deadline by which bills that want to pass need to go like this to the other body. It's not the only way a bill gets passed. You guys will find out. It's much messier than that. Little bits and pieces of things can get tacked onto bills at any time. Lots of things change, but in general, the first way that a bill can stall is if it doesn't make crossover. Okay, so one thing we want to think about is moving a calendar backwards. If we have if we've got an important bill on state IT that we want to develop as a committee, so we take a bunch of testimony and we think, all right, we see some areas where we want to do X, Y, and Z, and we're going to get one of Ledge Council in, and they're going to draft that for us, and we're going to discuss it and refine it. We need to make sure we vote that out of committee. If it has any money implications, we need to allow time for it to go to Ways and Means and Approps. We need to allow a couple days for it to be on the House calendar. We need to allow time for the House to vote on it. So there's a backwards calendar math thing that needs to happen if we want a bill of ours to make crossover. The one thing I didn't mention, and I think this is a good time to talk about it, because I'm, like I said, we're a transparent person. So one thing that might be on many people's minds is the clean heat standard. And I doubt if anybody in this room is surprised to hear that the Public Utilities Commission is going to be delivering its final proposed rules, like the playbook for how the clean heat standard would work. That deadline is next week.
Yep.
Yeah, Wednesday, January 15th. So on January 15th, the Public Utility Commission is going to be delivering to the legislature draft proposed rules for the clean heat standard that will include some economic analysis, and perhaps also, at least from what I've read in the media, a proposed alternative. Folks who've been following closely know that's all that is. We will be receiving information. There's no vote scheduled. This is not automatically taking law. The clean heat standard, as we developed it, could only become law if the legislature then takes the information that they've delivered to us, writes a bill, takes a bunch of testimony, passes it out of this committee, brings it to the House floor, passes it out of the House, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't want folks to be thinking that there's any kind of vote scheduled or a bill in the works. I have not developed a bill. I've been eagerly waiting to see what the PUC has to say. And so this is not on our agenda yet, but one idea we've been kicking around is the idea of whether we could receive that information in the most thoughtful and public way possible by getting a hearing on it right away, just to hear what the PUC has to say. So stay tuned, I guess. But that could be something that would be happening as early as next week. And I certainly don't want folks to be surprised by the fact that the PUC deadline is the 15th. And I know our constituents, certainly mine, and I'm sure yours, have been paying close attention to that. So questions on that? Yep.
Can we have that report prearranged to just be here for all of us, or do we need to go to the website, download something, or no?
Reports like that are typically delivered by, yeah. Yeah, reports like that are typically delivered to the committee assistant or to the chair by email.
Oh.
At which point I would then turn around immediately, unless I'm, I don't know, not at my desk or something, and we will put that on our website and send it to all of you. So you can basically assume that it will be simultaneously delivered to all of us, or something very close to that. Representative Sebelius.
There are, I believe it's on the it's on the PUC website. There's a place where you can look at all of the work that has happened to date, and the draft is posted there.
Let's see, I had it's fine. I had all these notes. Actually, we're in good shape with all my notes. The last thing I want to say, and then it looks as though Ledge Council has joined us. Would you be able and willing to? No. Okay, that's fine. We will get you back in. However, introduce yourself would be great. So, will you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Do you want me to come to the table? Or you want to say?
You don't need to.
Okay.
One of the things that I did mention is that our policy is going to be that everybody who's in the room introduces themselves so that we know who's here. So
Sure. Great. Ellen Tykowski, Austin Legislative Council. I am the Legislative Council attorney who handles land use, energy, and climate change. And I haven't been in this room in so long. I used to be in this room. That's where I started when I was the first Ledge Council. So I have been working on energy since 2018. I have worked on the heat standard and all the other fun things. You'll probably see a lot of me potentially based on what you work on, since energy is the first word in your name. So I'm the only Ledge Council that works on energy policy, though a couple of smaller things like Damien does handle electric vehicle charging. Not sure if that's in your portfolio.
I don't think so.
It has been handled by transportation in the past.
Transportation.
But broadly, the other energy subjects I work on as well.
Great. Ellen's fantastic. I'm sure we'll be seeing plenty of her. So thank you for coming up. And yes.
Madam Chair, I didn't catch her name. Even though she's right behind me, I still didn't understand.
Ellen.
Ellen?
It's Chai How Gi.
Tchaikovsky.
Okay.
Tchaikovsky.
Spelled just like it sounds.
Yeah.
It's fairly close. And my office is in 2 Aiken, by the way, which is the green building diagonal from here on the second floor, if anyone is looking for it.
Great. Matt.
Well, thank you very much. My name is Matt Coda. I'm a lobbyist here. It's my 22nd interests before this committee, chief among them, the Vermont Fuel Dealers Association, which represents heating oil and propane retailers, the Vermont Auto Dealers Association, which represents dealers of new vehicles. The Vermont Propane Association, Vermont Retail Grocers Association, and gasoline distributors. I also am the fuel sector representative on the Climate Council as appointed by the Speaker of the House. I'm also on the technical advisory group of the Clean Heat Standard. I've been designing the Clean Heat Standard for the last 18 months. I also serve on the equity advisory group of the Clean Heat Standard. So
That's great.
and I also teach in my spare time at the University of Vermont.
Thanks so much, Matt. I'm sure we'll be, getting you in for.
Oh, sorry.
So it's not
And one last thing, if I may, Chair.
Yeah,
I also represent the Vermont Communications Union District, which is an association of the CUDs. Thank you.
thank
You're so
you.
welcome.
Yeah. Gabrielle.
Hi, everybody. My name is Gabrielle Molina, and I am a contract lobbyist with Downs Racklin Martin, and I represent the regional transmission operator, ISO New England, as well as the two cooperative electric utilities, Washington Electric and Vermont Electric Co-op.
Thank you. That's on our list of, we've got a long list of folks we want to bring in for our 101 freshman year learning, and ISO New England, which is the grid, and Velco will be coming in the utilities. So
Yeah, I don't
We'll figure
represent
that out.
Belco, but back and whack, yes.
yeah,
And Belco
We-
is the state's transmission
3,
operator. Yes.
indeed.
Hello, everybody. Maria Royal with Legislative Council. Nice to meet some of you and see some of you again. I handle utilities and broadband, which is not a utility. So some people think it is a utility, which is why I ended up in this committee. I also, as part of my portfolio, I'm not always in this committee. I also do banking, insurance, and securities. So I'm in commerce quite a bit as well. And I've been here for 24 years, and I've switched my portfolio a number of times over those years. But I love the subjects I work on now, and I'm really looking forward to working with you. And with respect to 101 type issues, certainly for broadband, because I can help with that.
Great.
That's a big, complicated subject that's changing all the time. So the rest of the utilities comparatively don't move very fast, although obviously really important issues. But I'm happy to assist however I can with your work.
Super.
Yeah.
Thank you. We as a team, we have a lot to learn, and I think it's going to be really important that we try to build expertise so that we can try to create good policy. That would be the goal. Let's see. One thing I wanted to just toss out there. I had mentioned earlier making sure that everybody has a voice in suggesting witnesses. So just be thinking as we move forward here about whether there are areas of our committee's jurisdiction that are really interesting to you, that you think you'd like to dive in on and develop some deeper expertise or focus on. I want to make sure that everybody has a chance to, build some policy expertise if there's an area that's particularly interesting to you. Another thing is that if you're interested, if you don't want to, that's great. But as we bring bills to the floor, it's a neat experience to present a bill on the floor, and anybody who wants to do that in this committee will try to make sure you have the opportunity to do so, and some support in, my God, how do I bring a bill to the floor? Because it's the first time I've presented a bill on the floor. I didn't sleep the night before. I was very nervous. It feels very momentous, and it is, right? Because it is democracy. at a very personal level. And so, anyway, anybody here who would like to make sure that you have a chance to help bring a bill to the floor, let's make sure we try to make that happen. And if we're not, as the newest committee, if we're not churning out a lot of bills to the floor right now, which I honestly hope that we're not, we want to bring good policy to the floor, right? And make sure that we're a team that knows how to do that. So we can divide up bills and everybody can present a little section but it's a great experience to learn how to present and how to manage interrogation on the floor. And anyway, so that was my list. We have testimony this afternoon. I believe things in the legislature are constantly shifting. Our agenda has already changed like 3 times. But I believe we're hearing from the Department of Public Service at 1:00, Jack?
People want to confirm. Department of Public Service, yes.
Okay. And that's all we have on our agenda today. So we'll be getting out of here early today. In general, I think I mentioned this to folks yesterday, but I know we have some folks who commute up to an hour. In my mind, starting at 9:00 every day gives everybody a chance to get here at a reasonable hour, and getting folks out of here at 4:30 is that's going to be in general our work day, but not right now because we're still working on lining up our testimony. So we can have a committee discussion right now. We can wrap it up and go off live. Do folks have questions or comments that they'd like to send anybody's way before we adjourn for the morning?
Are we gonna go offline for a minute for questions?
Pardon?
Are we gonna go offline for a minute? I'm sorry, I didn't raise my hand.
Representative Allen.
Are we gonna go offline for some questions of committee protocol?
We can have those right now.
If one needs to leave the room for necessities while we're meeting,
Get up and go.
thank you.
Yeah.
For any reason, right?
Yeah, or for any reason. Representative Torrey?
That brings up a question for me. I recall that last session, we were allowed to miss up to 3 days due to like illness or having to be away, and we could still participate remotely and even vote on a committee vote remotely. Do you know if that's going to be the same this session?
I think that the rule was continued from last year so far.
What I
But
thought.
the rules committee will meet
So that's
and
to
maybe
be
change.
determined? Okay.
Mhm. Thank you for bringing that up.
Maria, is-
That's right. If it'll be a joint rule, if it exists, then you're right. It allows up to 3 remote
Okay.
meetings. But I suspect that will come up in some version.
Yes, and I would actually add, and I can't remember, sorry, Representative Torrey, if you said this, but that is for committee only.
Correct.
So, Jack, can you track that rule down and bring it to our committee? Thank you for reminding me about that. There is a rule in place that does guide how many times basically we can say, hey, I can't be in today and vote remotely. That is only in committee, and that would be if we've got a committee vote scheduled that day. My first thought would be to try to see if we can reschedule or be helpful, but we can't always do that. So I think it was up to 3. You cannot participate in the House floor remotely or vote remotely. But committee work, there's a little bit more flexibility around.
Question about that.
Yeah.
Is the 3 meetings limitation regarding voting only? Okay. So we can still participate in committee discussion remotely more than 3 times if the occasion arises for some reason.
So
Yeah, okay.
I know.
Is that, Maria, is that right?
I think so.
I would have, let me check.
Okay,
Let me find it and just
Okay.
check,
Yeah.
make sure.
okay.
We will find out. I feel like in House General, we had members who participated remotely because they had some health or mobility issues.
That's
Help?
right. Yeah,
We will find out.
Yeah.
How's that? Thank you. We'll get clarity
Yeah.
on that.
Another issue that occurs to me is snow days, which would be your call, Madam Chair.
I don't think snow days are a thing.
No.
Well, well, sometimes we might leave early or something like that.
Yes, yeah, but,
thank you.
we could certainly, adjourn early, try to shift our schedule and come in a little late if there's a snow thing, but in general, the legislature we don't have snow days. Yes,
Two questions. Committee votes, are they first by yea or nay, or are they always by roll call?
oh, that is a great question, which reminds me of a whole thing that we need to do. Gosh, thank you so much. We need to elect a committee clerk. The committee clerk is a member, is quite simply the member of our committee who takes the roll and calls the votes and then submits those votes to the clerk's office so that they can be recorded. It's, often a member who has a little bit more experience. Would anyone be interested in serving as the committee clerk?
You didn't have to tap you.
Fantastic. So thank you so much, Representative Torrey, for offering to serve as clerk. I believe we have to elect the clerk.
I move that we elect Representative Torrey as clerk.
I'll second.
Second. Okay. Do we have to call the roll or can we just?
I think we've just done a voice.
I think we can do a voice vote. Folks, if we need to do a roll call on this, we'll do it tomorrow. But for now, if we could have a voice vote, all in favor of electing Representative Torrey as our committee clerk, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Opposed, nay.
Oh, yes, opposed, nay. Okay. Committee votes are taken by roll.
But one thing to add to that, remember I mentioned about, we don't have possession of a bill and we take a straw poll, that would be an A or an A. But, maybe a hand raising or something like that. It would not be reported.
Correct.
But formal votes on bills are reported and with a roll call.
The straw poll, so that would be when we don't have possession. You may reference the straw poll vote on the floor during,
Yeah.
we might be reporting out what we did when we had the bill here, and that's when you would let the body know how the committee voted on the straw.
Yes,
Madam Chair.
sir.
Just want to confirm the budget timeframe is July 1st to June 30th.
Correct.
And that's
Fiscal year.
that's the fiscal year.
Yeah. So that first thing will be, I assume we'll be hearing about, will be that mid-year FY25 budget adjustment. And that's, like I said, that's typically, for many years, it was really just a mid-year true up. During COVID, it became a vehicle for ARPA funding. It varies sometimes from year to year, but often there may be not a whole lot for our committee to discuss, but that will come to the floor third week of January or.
Usually there's not much policy involved. Right. But
Yeah.
sometimes there is.
Ellen looks skeptical, but.
I know. And then we start work on, so we get the budget adjustment done, true it up, let's go. Then you'll see the House really diving into the FY26 budget. And that's an interesting process because the budget originates on the House side by statute.
Constitution.
Yeah, by constitution. And we work on it for, the House side works on it for weeks. We have to get that out by the final crossover deadline. It moves over to the Senate. And then, interestingly, the Senate works on it. And then it is typically the last bill we pass on the at 10 o'clock at night or 11 midnight or whatever. And then it's quite bizarre, actually. We pass the budget and we adjourn. And the governor comes in and gives a speech and says, thank you very much. And it is far weirder than the last day of school, believe me, because you are doing such intense work. And then we've passed the budget and we're done. And we all go home and you wake up the next morning and say, what just happened? So it's an interesting process.
Just passing the budget is at the end of passing about 2 or 3 dozen bills.
Right.
In the course of that day. It's
wild.
Just wait.
So, yes.
Madam Chair, I've tried to make my appointments during break week, but they're not always capable. What notice do you want when I know in advance that I need to leave early on a Friday?
Thank you. So that was on my list and I skipped it. Please let Jack know if you're going to be late. And I'm not talking about 10 minutes, like if you are really delayed. Yeah. Well, or just if you're really going to be late. Because I will try, even though we want to start committee on time, if I think somebody's just rushing up, I'm going to wait a minute. But also we don't want to be worried, right? If you went off the road driving in or something. So please let Jack know if you're going to be late. Also, I'm trying to figure out if there's a way that we could keep a little bit of an informal calendar so that you can let Jack know if there are days that you're going to be out. Like I have a couple days that I'm not going to be here this session, and I'm going to be giving those dates to Jack like ASAP. Because if we have a committee calendar, and we know ahead of time that there's a date you're not going to be here, I would be very reluctant to schedule important testimony or committee vote on that day if one of us can't be here. So I will have Jack reach out to everyone. Let's get a committee calendar going. So that if you know there are dates that you're not going to be around, we're going to try to work around that.
To explain the bells.
No, Representative Sibilia.
Oh, you're gonna make me explain.
Yeah.
Well, I don't actually know. So there's 2 different sets of bells that you will hear, and Ellen and Maria will correct me if I'm wrong. And there's a light. Yep. So the light right now, green is for the Senate, which is a green chamber. Red is for the House, which is a red chamber. And so that means that the Senate is in session right now. And we heard there was a ding, ding, yeah, before, and that means that they're going onto the floor. And you'll hear ours is 1. Is it 1?
I don't know.
It's 1 that just comes.
Yeah.
I don't know, but the light will flash.
Yeah.
Right.
So you'll be able to tell if it's red or green.
That's more of a chime.
Yeah.
Yours is more of a bell.
Yeah, and you'll hear that. You can hear that throughout the building, and those lights are throughout the building. I don't know if you can actually hear it in the cafeteria. So that's a good place to make sure you're keeping track.
Which is a great segue to our agenda. Jack will be posting and continually updating our agenda. It's on our webpage. There's a link that says agenda. I hate to break it to you, it changes a lot. So you want to make sure that you're checking our agenda throughout the day, that you're checking our agenda the night before. You're going to see witnesses change and shift. You're hopefully won't see times change and shift a whole lot. If anything goes completely haywire, Jack will be reaching out to us, to let us know I don't know, committees canceled, but that doesn't really happen very often. But the witnesses change and shift, time shift a little bit. So I would say please get in the habit of just checking our agenda frequently throughout the day.
Next Tuesday, for example. is already changed a
Next
lot.
Tuesday has already changed a lot, for example. Yes.
Madam Chair, just, still being of the old school, is it possible to get the nearest final version of paper?
At the-
Here,
At the end of the week, you mean?
no, before we start committee, you
Okay.
have it,
Yes.
what, so I can, I'm still battling this iPad, so. Paperwork.
Yeah.
Whatever your preferences are.
Yeah.
We can make hard copy.
If
That would be
anyone would
appreciated. Thank
would
you.
like hard copies, let me know and I can have those ready in the morning before we start. And if you want the agenda at the end of the week to see what actually happened, because that will be the final agenda, let me know and I can either send you a hard copy or email you a digital version.
Great.
Thank you.
You bet. I saw. We are in the habit, the brand new habit of making sure that everyone in the room introduces themselves so we know who's here and what, who you're here to represent. So if you don't mind.
Sure. Claire Buckley from Leonine Public Affairs. And my firm represents a lot of clients that have an interest in this committee's work. I'm here for a lot of different people, but one key person would be CTIA, which is the National Telecom Industry Association.
Great. Thank you so much. Questions, comments?
Madam Chair, again, being bold. I mean, it would be nice to make sure if they use acronyms, they tell us what the acronym is.
Thank you.
That would be wonderful.
Appreciate it. Welcome to acronym land.
Right.
Be good to just be prepared to ask the chair to have people explain.
Yeah. So folks, I think we can go off live. We will be reconvening at 1:00 today. And before we wrap up our first official live stream meeting, I want to thank every single one of you for being willing to put yourself forward and run for public office and to serve the people of Vermont and your communities. It is not an easy thing to do, and I have deep respect for everyone who is willing to do that. So thank you for being here.
Madam Chair, one clarification on my district. It's a 2-member district that I had served with Dan. I didn't say that originally.
Awesome.
Well, too. Thank you.
Great. Jack?